have to say, Jon, you are undeniably an international superstar. But in this room, on this night, this woman right here is the star of the show.
Yes.
So, Suleika, you have been an inspiration for over a decade now to so many people through your writing, through your art, and now through this film. I'm curious to know who has inspired you. Not the lighting crew, I don't think.
Both times I've been sick, I've struggled with the question of what to do with this experience. And I've tried it every possible way, from denying it to fighting it to raging against it to feeling embittered by it. But we have this long lineage of artists and writers who, for various reasons throughout history, have found themselves bedridden and who, in spite of their limitations, have found ways to transform that suffering into something meaningful and artful and even beautiful. And so the people who inspire me are those who have done just that, from Frida Kahlo to Susan Sontag, to Audre Lorde. There's too many to name here, but I've looked to the many people in the world who have found their own lives interrupted, and who, rather than lying in the wreckage of that experience, have managed to reimagine who they are, reimagine their limitations, and how they can participate in the world, even if that's just from a hospital bed.
Amazing. We have members of your care team here. I was wondering if we could ask Suleika's care team to just stand and be recognized. We're all so grateful. Don't be shy. Stand on up. There are your people. Thank you all for the incredible care you take of all of our patients. Jon, can you talk a little bit about how the creative process helped you through what was obviously a harrowing journey at some points for Suleika during her cancer care?
I think the idea of inspiration, creativity, anything that comes into an artist's psyche that they have to make and put back out into the world and share with people is best when it comes from something real. And when the person who you love the most is fighting for survival, that's the realest scenario that anyone can imagine. So as an artist, it's impossible to separate that from the art and the creative process. It's not one necessarily helping the other. One is the other. Art is life. Life is art. Is life is art is life. So that's what was happening.
So we heard your teacher tell you about the breath, and then Suleika, today in the New York Times, I read a quote from you about Robert Frost, keep coming back to you. Can you share that quote with the group here and just tell us a little bit about what that meant to you?
So it's one of my favorite quotes of his, and he says, "No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader." And so everything about participating in this film was incredibly hard. Nothing about the experience of being very sick makes you want to share, or for that matter, to invite a camera in your life. From sun up until sundown, 7 days a week for 7 months. There were 1,500 hours of footage by the end of that process. But I as challenging as that felt to do and as counterintuitive as it was, I knew that I wanted to show what it means to be in the trenches of uncertainty, to not know what the next day is going to bring. In truth, I didn't know if I was going to survive long enough to one day get to see this film. And so everything about that experience brought surprise, and sometimes brought tears. But that's why we make the things that we make, to puzzle our way through the world, to make sense of it. And without the surprise and without the tears, it's not really worth doing, in my opinion.
Thank you. That's really incredible. Matthew, speaking of surprises, this was not the film that you intended to make, right? You were going to make a film about making music. Take us through the process when you learned of Suleika's recurrence and how you all decided together you were going to take this path, the pivot, if you will.
I mean, the quote that I've heard when I was a 21-year-old filmmaker is something that I've lived pretty much every day since I heard it, which was, if you end up with the story you started with, then you weren't listening along the way, which I think is beautiful advice for life. It's beautiful advice for filmmaking. Don't be dogmatic, be open to the story changing. And that's something that I've held incredibly close to my heart at every step along the way, both in a macro sense within each film, within each shoot day, within each shot, look beyond the frame. And this film changed before we'd even started filming. The original conceit was to sort of follow Jon's American Symphony. And then right after that conversation, Suleika got re-diagnosed, Jon got nominated for 11 Grammys, and that was all before we'd even, press record. And the film just kept evolving and changing as we navigated the next 7 months.
Really impressive how you can move through it all and just make such incredible art out of all of it, all of you. Dr. Giralt, we are so grateful. I know we at MSK and Be the Match are so grateful to Jon, Suleika, and Matthew for using this film as a platform to really raise awareness about the need for donors. And we saw in our coming attractions with Dr. Vickers and with Amy, the campaign that will now happen over the next 100 days that Jon and Suleika are powering. One of the commonly held beliefs is that being a donor is risky and painful. Can you help set the record straight about what it takes to be a donor? We've heard a simple swab, but just a little bit more about what goes into that and how much risk is involved to the donor.
So first, on a personal note, thank you all for putting this piece together. This is a testament of what Suleika and, literally thousands of patients go through in the United States to get back to their health. And essential to that component is to have a stem cell source and a donor source. And you guys saw the audience. You saw the orchestra. Those are our patients. And the registry needs to look like that. The best donors are donors who are young. I was a donor 40 years ago. I aged out. Yes, that's how old I am. So we over the next 3 months, MSK, NMDP, thanks to the American Symphony, are going to go out on a campaign and ask young people to join the symphony so we can replenish the lines in the donor registries so they look like the audience and the orchestra that you just saw. And that it is just a swab, getting on the registry. And when you get called, it's like the Willy Wonka ticket. But you have the ticket to save a life and to give people back their health. And that's a unique prize. And I think you've seen how Suleika went from one point to another. And, her brother was the donor. But each and every one of you young people have the opportunity of giving back a life. So we are going to go out and replenish the donor registries to make sure that everybody has a donor and opportunity for a second chance at life.
Wonderful. And we have a call to action at the end for our audience. We'll come back to that. I do want to say, Jon, you shared some very vulnerable and challenging mental health moments. And we know that sometimes there can be stigma around mental health issues. We've seen it among elite athletes in the last year and others. It, at some point, must have been a conscious choice for you to allow those moments to be seen. Can you say why that was important to you?
There's so much of the human condition that as a public figure is hidden in service of mystique and in service of creating this illusion that somehow we're exempt from the human condition. And on top of that, there's this opportunity as a public figure in this loneliness epidemic that we're facing, where you have people who are watching you, and you have opportunity to show them that I'm just as human as you are. That's a powerful opportunity. Just as Suleika was saying about the journey of someone who has an illness and is battling cancer, and showing the real commitment to sharing that story unvarnished, not knowing the outcome. It's the same thing. You know, it's a beautiful opportunity.
It truly is. Matthew, is there one particular thing about this film that you want this audience and audiences around the world as they watch this to know, think, do?
I hate that question, kind of.
Do you want me to withdraw? We can pretend I didn't.
No. I'm up here. I have to answer it. I don't know. I mean, I think there's how many people in here? 500, 400 people in here. I hope each and every one of you take something different away from the film. I think on a basic level, the sort of thesis to me is this love story and these two individuals who use art as a survival mechanism. And I think, of course, that's their way of dealing with hardship, but I think we all as a society are facing, these are tough times we're living through. And so I hope in some way that this film serves as a roadmap on how to deal with hardship.
That's very lovely. I'm wondering, I'm sure this is a question no one's going to want to answer now, and I'm feeling a little self-conscious about it, but let's start with you, Dr. Giralt. Is there one moment in this film that really stood out for you or meant the most to you? And we're going to go on down the line here.
So I'm partial. I always have to say that the moment the transplant goes in is a unique moment. And it's just not only because of the act of giving and saving, but the biology behind the fact that we give one bag of cells to a person this wonderful and this big, and within 3 months they've recovered, is to me always been miraculous. And people know I could spend hours just talking about the history of it. I'm not going to do that to you. I recommend that you read the book, but I think so. To me, that always is a unique moment.
And very special moment to hear Suleika say in sort of a weakened voice, best transplant ever. The way that you all can celebrate even the darkest moments is really very impressive and inspirational. Is it okay to ask you if you have a favorite moment, Matthew?
That was a rude answer that I had before.
It's quite all right. I have 3 brothers. I'm used to it.
I apologize. I don't know. It's hard for me. I think the sort of juxtaposition of the wedding and the head shaving scene, to me, sort of just so embodied this moment in their lives. That wasn't just a editorial artifice that we created. Those 2 days really were juxtaposed. That was the next morning. And I just think that, just the flow of the energy of the wedding into that other, the next day, and obviously the days that came, it really gets me every time I see it. And I've seen it probably 900 times, so.
It is an incredibly poignant, but just such an intimate moment to have that, to see the connection between the two of you without any words spoken was really incredible to watch. And I agree with you. I think that was my favorite moment as well. Suleika?
The moment that always makes me cry is the moment when I left my hospital room and turned the hallway corner only to be confronted with all of the incredible humans who had so diligently taken care of me for 5 weeks. And I've been through this twice now, and I know it's a cliche, but it's a true one, and that's that it truly takes an enormous village to usher someone through an experience like a bone marrow transplant. And I know from watching everyone from the pharmacists to the social workers to the transplant doctors to the nurses that it is hard work. It is often heartbreaking work and sometimes thankless work. And I take a deep bow of gratitude to all of you who take care of patients. Thank you.
Mr. Batiste, we're not going to let you escape. What is your favorite moment in that film? Or you could also give us the least favorite. The power going out, I imagine, might have been. But what's your favorite?
I don't have a favorite moment in the film. I don't, because I think, for one, it's hard for me to watch the film. You know, it's our lives. That's a difficult thing to watch and pick a favorite moment, particularly not having known if there would be more moments together. So to live through it, that's my favorite moment.
Beautiful, appreciate it. Well, I want to say thank you again. I know you guys are off to LA. You must be exhausted already, and it's just beginning. We appreciate so much all of you taking the time, creating this opportunity. Suleika, I wanted to give you just a last word about what is the call to action for this audience, and what do you want us all to do, having seen this film over the next 100 days?
That's easy. Sign up for the registry. If you've aged out of the registry, or as my friend Liz told me when she tried to sign up for the registry, she had old-ass marrow, which was slightly insulting to her. So if you have old-ass marrow, then please talk to your younger friends and convince them to join the registry. Thank you.
We would be remiss if we did not say thank you to the Netflix team. The team here in the Paris Theater have been incredible to us. Netflix donated this theater for this event this evening. We're so grateful. And the Higher Ground people, to everyone who worked on pulling this together very quickly so that we have this opportunity. To amplify what Suleika said, as you leave tonight, you will be given this ticket that has a QR code. Please scan the code. If you have young-ass marrow and you can do it, please do it. If you're on social media, please share. Become a lifesaver. Over the next 100 days, it is our goal and our fondest wish that we will see that registry number increase, particularly among ethnically diverse people, so that everyone has an opportunity to get a transplant should they need it. Thank you all so very much for coming. Have a great evening.